The rifle was a relic. Pitted steel, worn wood, a weapon that belonged in a museum, not a war zone. When he first arrived at the firebase, the other soldiers saw it and couldn't help themselves. Laughter echoed across the compound, sharp, mocking, the kind that cuts deeper than any blade. They were young men armed with the latest military hardware, sleek M16s fresh from the armory, and here was this quiet figure clutching what looked like his grandfather's hunting rifle. A bolt-action relic from another era. Another war. Didn't defend himself. Just check the action on that old rifle one more time, the bolt sliding home with a metallic whisper that only he seemed to hear. But Marcus Webb had something those other soldiers didn't understand yet. Something forged not in boot camp, but in the vast silence of wheat fields. And pre-dawn hunts, in the discipline of patience and the mathematics of distance, wind, and heartbeat. He had been shooting since he was 6 years old. Had learned that a weapon is only as good as the man behind it. And that rusty rifle. It was an extension of his will, his breath, his very soul. The firebase sat at the edge of the known world, a fragile semicircle of sandbags and wire perched on a hillside overlooking the valley. Beyond the perimeter, the jungle was a cathedral of shadows, its canopy so dense that noon felt like twilight. Intel reported enemy movement. A battalion. Maybe more. They were coming, and everyone knew it. You could feel it in the air, thick and electric, like the moment before a storm breaks. Marcus took position on the southern tower. The metal was hot enough to brand skin, there shimmering with moisture and menace. Through his scope, a simple 4-power optic, nothing fancy, he watched the tree line. Studied the patterns of light and shadow. The way leaves moved in wind versus the way they moved when something brushed against them. His breathing slowed, deepened. The chaos of the firebase faded until there was only the glass circle of his scope and the vastness beyond. The attack came at dawn. They emerged from the jungle like ghosts made flesh, dozens of them, moving with practiced coordination through terrain they knew intimately. The firebase erupted in gunfire, a deafening symphony of automatic weapons tearing the morning apart. Tracers streaked through the smoke. Men shouted coordinates, called for ammunition, screamed for medics. It was the apocalypse condensed into acres, and in the middle of it all, Marcus Webb sat perfectly still. One breath, one shot. A figure dropped 800 yards out. The bolt cycled smooth. Mechanical. Another breath. Another shot. Another enemy soldier folded into the jungle floor. No wasted movements. No hesitation. Just the rhythm of breath and trigger, the ancient dance of hunter and hunted playing out across impossible distances. If stories of warriors who defied every expectation captivate you, if you want to witness more moments where the underestimated become unstoppable, hit that subscribe button now. Because what happens next will redefine everything you thought you knew about combat. ***, the soldiers around him began to notice. Between the bursts of their own fire, they caught glimpses of what was happening in that southern tower. Enemies falling at distances where they were barely visible. Each shot precise. Final. While their automatic weapons sprayed hundreds of rounds, Marcus was making each bullet count, and every single one found its mark. But it wasn't just accuracy. It was timing. When their machine gun went silent, jammed, overheated, Marcus covered the gap. When a squad pushed forward and found themselves exposed, his rifle spoke and cleared their path. He was reading the battle like a language only he understood, seeing patterns in the chaos, finding the officers, the radio operators, the key figures whose deaths would unravel the enemy's coordination. The attack should have overrun them. By every tactical calculation, the numbers favored the enemy. But Marcus Webb had become something more than a soldier with an old rifle. He had become a force of nature. An equation that couldn't be solved. Every time the enemy tried to advance, tried to mass for a push, The jungle would reach out and claim another life, another leader, another thread in their tactical fabric. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher, turned the fire base into an oven. Smoke from burning vegetation choked the air. Marcus's shoulder was bruised purple from the rifle's recoil. His hands were steady despite the tremor of exhaustion beginning to creep into his muscles. The rifle was hot, the metal almost too painful to touch, but he couldn't stop. Wouldn't stop. Because men were dying down below, and every shot he took was another soldier who might make it home. The enemy commander made a fatal mistake. Frustrated by the stalled attack, by casualties mounting from an invisible source, he exposed himself. Just for a moment. Just long enough to coordinate a final push. But a moment was all Marcus needed. 1,200 yards. An impossible shot by any standard. Wind gusting. Heat shimmer distorting the air. The target barely visible through layers of smoke and vegetation. Marcus exhaled slowly, felt his heartbeat slow to a crawl. The crosshairs steadied on a shadow that might have been a man. Might have been nothing. His finger tightened on the trigger. The shot split the morning. And in the distance, through that circle of magnified glass, Marcus watched the shadow fall. The enemy attack collapsed. Without coordination, without leadership, the assault disintegrated into retreat. They melted back into the jungle, leaving their dead behind, and the fire base bloody but unbroken held. *** before we reveal what the military discovered about that day, what the after-action reports couldn't explain, subscribe. Because the truth of what Marcus Webb accomplished is almost impossible to believe. *** when the battle finally ended, when the adrenaline drained and left only exhaustion in its wake, the other soldiers came to the southern tower. The ones who had left. They stood silent now, looking at the man who sat there cleaning his rifle with the same quiet attention he'd shown since he arrived. The rusty rifle that wasn't rusty at all, they realized. Just worn. Love. Trusted. The battalion commander ordered a count. 27 confirmed kills. 27 enemy soldiers neutralized by a single marksman with a bolt-action rifle while an entire base fired thousands of rounds. The number seemed impossible. But the bodies were there, scattered across the valley at distances that made veteran soldiers shake their heads in disbelief. Marcus never talked about it. Didn't boast. Didn't need to. He'd done what needed doing, nothing more. But word spread. Through the division. Through the corps. The story of the farm kid with the old rifle who held a fire base against an entire battalion. They stopped laughing. Started listening. And when Marcus spoke quietly, carefully, the way he did everything experienced soldiers leaned in to hear. In the years after, military analysts would study that battle. Try to understand how one man with obsolete equipment outperformed squads with modern weapons. They'd talk about skill and training, about the psychology of precision versus volume of fire. But they missed the essential truth that every hunter knows, that Marcus had understood since childhood. It's not about the weapon. It's about the warrior. About patience. Discipline. The absolute conviction that every shot matters because every shot might be the difference between life and death. The jungle took many things from many men. But it gave Marcus Webb something rare. It gave him proof of what he'd always quietly known. That courage doesn't require validation. That true skill speaks in silence. That sometimes the most dangerous weapon on the battlefield isn't the newest or the loudest, it's the one wielded by a man who knows exactly what he is doing. ***, if this story moved you, if you believe that character matters more than circumstance, that will can overcome weapons, then subscribe. Because the world is full of Marcus Webbs. Quiet warriors who change everything while the world looks elsewhere. And we're going to tell every single one of their stories. ***, the rusty rifle hangs in a place of honor now. Not in a museum. In a home. Where it belongs. Where it waits, oiled and ready, for the next moment when precision matters more than power. When one shot, placed perfectly, can change the course of history. Because some weapons are just tools, but some are extensions of the soul. And in the right hands, with the right heart behind them, there is no such thing as obsolete. There is only deadly.